Hey, we are live. Hey everyone, haven't done a live in a while, and a lot of things have been happening. I'm sure you know, unless you live under a cave. A lot of conflict has been happening between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and it's of course very saddening for us Samaritans. I have friends from both sides who have been affected by this one way or another. And yes, indeed, you know, as Samaritans, we are suffering a lot from this war, and in a way that, you know, it's all you hear about during the day, and it's hard to deal with. And a lot of people around the world have reached out and asking if everything's okay, so I appreciate that. Yes, we are doing good, but you know, we're praying for peace here. As Samaritans, we know that wars have been, you know, devastating for the community. This is one of the main reasons why our numbers are very, very low today. 850. Used to be 1.5 million Samaritans 3,000 years ago. And today, there's 800 because of the wars, because of the revolts that happened all around. So yeah. Alright. So today I wanted to share a few things. First of all, we are starting the first chapter in the Torah. So in case you don't know, we had festivals this year a little bit later than the Jewish festivals, something like a month ago, the Sukkot festival. And we had, of course, Yom Kippur. After Yom Kippur, 24 hours of fasting, 25 hours of prayer. We built the Sukkot at home, the fruits on the ceiling. You can check out the video I have on the channel to describe how we make them, if you're curious about that. And you know, usually, of course, we have Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day. This is when we have also a long prayer, about an 8-hour prayer from 3 a.m. until 9 a.m. to sometimes 10 a.m. Different times, but usually it's between 7 to 8 hours of also beautiful melodies and celebrations and really good food afterwards. So it was nice, despite the war that's been happening, and it was of course different, but you know, this is something that we're keeping on for hundreds of generations. So yeah. And those asking, I'm safe. Thank you. We are safe here on Mount Gerizim and in Tel Aviv and Holon, right? So that's the where we're staying right now. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this weekly as much as I can, like at least once a week, because, you know, I've been thinking about it. At some point, you know, these days I always, if I meet a word that I don't know in the Torah from here, then I have to ask the older generation, what does that word mean? And then, you know, you can't help but imagine yourself if the next generation, you know, will ask you when you're older. It would be embarrassing not to know that, right? Or it would be even sad also that if you don't know what that word mean. So yeah, we're going to try to go through the Torah throughout the year, see what a few words, if there's a few words, and I'm sure there are a lot of words that I do not particularly know what they mean. Even after you know, hundreds of questions that I've asked, I'm sure, you know, I'm curious and I want to know more. But today we start with the more simple words to learn from, although not so simple that the hidden things in the creation to describe. But let's start. Let me show you what I mean. First of all, we have the first word here, Barashet. And of course, if you're new, this is ancient Hebrew. This is what the Samaritan community have been using for, we believe, since when we came to the Holy Land. Of course, there was some variations maybe across the many years, like any language, But this is what we believe is the closest to what really the original Torah, or like the first, Torah was written in. So Barashet, Beat, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yud, Taf. So many things you can say, even for the first word. So first of all, some people will go even further and ask, why was the first letter Beat in the Torah? We know the first letter in the alphabet was Aleph. Why is the first letter Beat? Now, these are a few things. This is one thing I think my uncle told me once about it, and he said that Beat is like the second letter, meaning that creation happened, but there was something before it, which was God. And you could say God, Hashem. Some people ask me, you say God? What do you mean? Like, yes, of course, it's God of Abraham, Isaac, the God of the universe. So we believe that, before anything existed, God existed. Next, we have the word Barashet, which means in the beginning. And the origin of this word is really Rosh, right? Rosh means head. And we also have something called Rosh Hashanah, which means the head of the year. So it's almost like in a sense, it's the beginning of something, because it's a head, right? So it's it has a top. So this is, I believe, what is interpreted from Barashit. And if you're wondering, like, do Samaritans believe the world is 6,000 years old? Not particularly. We have the belief that maybe since Adam, yes, 6,400 years. Not sure, I forgot the exact number, but it's not really what it says about the real origin of the universe, how old it is. Buck Spencer, yes, I'm safe, thank you. If you're asking. Hello, Thomas. Good to see you again. All right, so Barashet bara Eluim. So by the way, you can see there's a line going here, and then there's letters. So these letters are just like a sign that what we read before we're reading the Barashet. We say this sentence that actually extends to the next page here, Yishtabba, which actually is so it's Yishtabba Barya et Kembara all the way here, which really means praise the Lord who created, right? That's what it means. But the writer actually put it in a vertical way, unlike the horizontal normal words. So the word bara is also very strong, which means created or librot. To create is really to create out of nothing. So that's the difference between the word bara and the word asa or asha, which us, like for example humans, we create something out of something, right? We bring materials and then we create something. Bara really means creation out of nothing, and that's what what God did. There's Marka also, our most famous sage Marka. He has a beautiful poem where he mentions, he says, Bara alam yai man an adla aba, which means he created a beautiful world from which there was nothing. So really, bara means created out of nothing, in a sense. And then we have Eluim. So Eluim is also, I once asked also, I don't know if it was my uncle or my grandfather about this, the origin of the word Eluim. And it can be cut into two words, El Hayam, which can mean also the Lord of the sea. And of course, we're not saying that there's different gods. God forbid. It just also means that he's the Lord of the universe, the whole of everything, the Lord of everything. But particularly here, can also be connected to where he says, and that the Spirit of God was around or above the sea. And we'll get to that point and what it means in a bit, but this is also interesting. So Barashet bara Elohim, and notice the word here of the name of God is Elohim and not Yud Hey Vav Hey Shema, how we say in Samaritan, because, well, actually I forgot the exact reason, but I'm trying to say that until later we start seeing Yud Hey Vav Hey, the word YHWH, to appear instead of Elohim. Barashet also, one is saying here, is Shaul. Barashet means created 6. Interesting. So shit means shish. You mean like 6? Interesting. Alright, and it says here, of course, after Elohim, it Eshamim with Aris, the sky and the earth. And here it can also be interpreted, I did see somewhere on YouTube once that some people will interpret it as space and then matter. Interesting, that first there was time, Barashet, in the beginning, time, and then you have sky, which can be also interpreted as space, and then we have Aris, which can mean, of course, here, matter. Interesting. So now we have that. And then we have Waris Ayata Te'u Ubeu, which really simply means that it is just not, it doesn't have any plants, doesn't have any animals, doesn't have any, humankind. There's no life. So you can imagine Earth without life. It really exactly looks like Te'u Ubeu, which kind of means void, and I'm not sure about the exact words for Te'u Ubeu, but it really means void and out of nothing, right? So. Okay. So now we continue here, and we says, of course, Washik alfani tum. Washik here, the word here means darkness. Al fani tum. Tum would also be, mean around earth, or some people would say around the waters of earth. Of course, at this point, we know that many would say that the earth didn't appear because it was filled with water yet, until the next verse that describes that the earth appeared. We'll get to it in a bit. So again, Washik alfani tum, this word here, darkness. And this is mainly because there was no light. And then we continue. And then we see Uru elu wem emra'e fat alfani emem, which means that you can say the spirit of God, of the Lord, basically has been, Amra Efat would probably, I'm not sure if fly would be the right word. Again, we understand that what it means, but it's hard to find the exact English translation for this. If in the chat knows, what is Amra Efat, it's basically, it can be like hovering around the waters. Now, the word Amra Efat in the Samaritan community, it is also known that this verse here, that the Spirit of the Lord has been around the sea, kind of also means that there was a source of life ready to be, inflated into the matter to become life. Sort of like what is said almost also in a bit, which means that God has inflated, right, the which means the breath of life into Adam, and he became a living being, nafishaya, or a living soul. Alright, so what do we have here? Eric says it would appear that the garment of Eshu is a Christian or another non-Hebrew speaker. Barashet means merely at the beginning of God's creation. So when God made light, he married the earth. I'm not sure what you mean by married here, Mindy. But right after now we see what is the first word that comes from God, from Elohim, because here it says Uyere Elohim it ar kitub. Now here is the first word, and it makes a lot of sense that light is one of the first things we see. Why? Because as obvious as this sounds, but why light? Because it helps us, of course, differentiate between things. If everything was darkness, how would we know the difference between anything, right? As obvious as this sounds, but only when light has been created, then we have light and dark, and then we start having two different things. We can even differentiate between water and what's it called, earth, right? As humans. So what I'm trying to say is that this is also very important for us as humans and even animals. It's almost like what is consciousness is, right? Consciousness is also to differentiate between things, to be able to differentiate, to go through the world and experience. And to experience, you need to have light, you need to have eyes to interpret this light, and so on. And of course, all of life. But I'm saying that, or this is also like there's some mystical explanations for it. For example, or some people would say it's Moses, that God created also Moses, because you would say, but what about the sun? Like this is the sun, right? Well, yeah, you can also say this is the sun, but then we have the other story here that God created the sun and the moon separately after. So different interpretations. What we're taught is that there's some mystical meanings to it, but there's also the or. For example, one really famous interpretation of what this or is that it's really the morning light, really which is scientifically it could be challenging to explain that, because still the morning light is also the sunlight, of course, but there's like the sky is not really in the sun is not really inside the sky yet. So anyways, and here it says Uyere Elohim it'a or kitub. Now this is the first thing that is described by God to be good in the Torah. And then notice how we have other things that God keeps saying, and then God said that this was good. Hashem said that saw that it was good. Abud, where can we find reliable information about Marka? Did he live on Mount Gerizim? Where did he live? I don't think he lived on Mount Gerizim, but it would be really interesting to know that, or if he visited occasionally. We do have the pilgrimage, but reliable information I am yet to find on the internet, but there's definitely some books here and there. One book that might talk a little bit about Marka would be Traditions Kept. Forgot the name of the author, but the name of the book is Traditions Kept. It talks about Marka a little bit, talks about the Abul Hassan also, so you can check that out. Alright, here it says وَيَبْدَ الْإِلُوًا بِنْ آرُ بِنْ آشِق. It of course means that God differentiated between light and darkness, and only when he created light he can differentiate, because there's two things now, and light also makes you see different things again. So it's no wonder that is mentioned here that Yere Elohim Ta'or Kitub, and then God saw that the light was good. ويقرأ Elohim la Yom ولا شقار ليلة. And then of course we have light, meaning that it's day, darkness meaning that it's night. And then there was night and there was evening one day. Again, I kind of like flew by this in about 10 minutes or something, and even less, even a little bit more, but you can write a whole book about this subject right here, and I don't think I'm even like nearly qualified to talk all about the interpretation of this first verse, but I wanted to share a few things that I like about it. And I think my most favorite thing about it is the light, because this light is light is really the thing that makes us read, right? We read the reflection of those words in contrast with the paper. As philosophical as you can come, it's super important. Anyways, the second verse here is they also arqi. Now this is one of the more challenging verses to be interpreted, because this talks about, some people would say arqi is something above the earth that differentiated the waters above the earth and the waters below the earth. So more scientific minded people would say that this is the water that exists on meteors or something, that we know that water on earth came outside. Traditional sense would say arqi is, in the traditional belief, arqi would be really just the sky, and there's like the outer stars and the galaxies around it, and so on. So there's differences between this earth and the celestials that we see around, outside the earth. But here it says also, Uyash Elua mit arqi, after he created this, what's it called in English? Frame or firmness, if someone can help us out here with the exact word of the arqi in English. ويبدل بنأمم إيش المتات الأرقي وبنأمم إيش المتات الأرقي. This is one of the most controversial verses today, I think, that God differentiated between the waters above the firmness, the arqi, and the waters below that. But what's important here is that it's also there's also, by the way, an interpretation of there was differences between mem wal mem, differences between waters and waters, right? In the next verse, it talks about ayyabasha. This is where the earth appears. Utirra'i ayyabasha means the earth would appear. So here we know, like, that this is also the first creation of the Azra, seed. This is one of the, obviously also the most important thing in creation, is to be able to the creation self maintains itself by the seed, or what's known, I believe, what you can say is the DNA, because a tree or a plant grows and it has to bring the next generation by the seed. And of course this goes to humans and animals, but of course the human wasn't created until earth was ready to have the humans, after the plants were created and after the animals as well. So I'm going to go to the next one here. I don't have them here in exact, so the next one would be here. And here we see the creation of the stars. So the word here, Barqi ash-Shamim, really means in the, and thank you for the word, Eric. Yes, it's that word. Firmament, right? Firmament, is that the word? How you pronounce it? So God really put the stars. Marcus said, that he attached those infinite lights in the sky. Speaking about Hashem, of course. And of course, this is an important verse here. They were also there to differentiate, for the human to differentiate it between the exact day and the exact light. Other than the sky, stars would also make you differentiate and just have the sign that, Earth is about to enter night. And it also helped humans to lutot means signs here, utot, right? And then you have to have signs for days and years. So that's also what they were used, and you can say that the people also used them for navigation, of course. So we have that. Okay, continuing on. So here it says that God created the two huge lights, of course, the moon and the sun. When speaking about creation, I believe a lot of people around the world today are very picky with the words like, but like the moon is not really light, and why is it called light? Because it's reflected from the sky. Well, really, the old humans really didn't need to know that in many ways. If you think about it, this is not the point. The point is that we have this creation, and then we have a slow, steady build up until this world was ready for us to be able to experience it the way it is right now. It has to have all those elements for us to be able to perceive it as it is right now. We need the light to survive. We need the food, and we need the seed to be able to survive as humanity. So until all those conditions are met, only then God created man. So, and again we come back to Uyere Eluwem Kitub, and then God saw that it was good. Good to have you again here, Larry. Light equals bonding, victory, studying Torah, purpose, shalom, intimacy. Yeah, beautiful, Mindy. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about light. Okay, so again, I'm going to talk about Yere Eluim Kitub. As humans, when we see something that is good, we know that, we know this is good. And of course, sometimes you also, if you see something that is good, you want to share it. I'm sure you know what I mean. And perhaps this is what Shema saw, right? That he wanted to share this beautiful creation with someone, and that someone is the creation, right, itself. This is what we are taught in the Samaritan community, that God really shared his creation with us. So how lucky are we? ويا إلوم يشرسو أمم شارس نافش عيا. Now these are of course this is the creation of the fish and anything that swims right in the sea. And we have also some controversial verses. الطانينم أجادلم. الطانينم أجادلم can mean huge crocodiles or whales. I'm not sure if some people would call them dinosaurs, because here we mostly talk about waters, so I don't think it was talking about dinosaurs, but yeah. وتكل نافش عيا الرامشت إيش الشراس وأمم الميني يما وتكل أوف قانف الميناء. The word الميناء means it's kind. So good evening, Stefano. And then again, so now we have the plants, we have the birds, and then man was about to appear. So we have يا عمر إلوم توسي آرس نافش عيا المينا بيما وريمش ويطارس المينا. So again, the word Almina, which means as its kind. Here it says, and then God said, we make man, or Adam, of course we say Adam, in our image. So I'm not exactly sure about these two words. So this is a good question to leave to my uncle or my grandfather here. Salam, in Hebrew, the more modern Hebrew, Salam, like we say let salam, right, which means to take a photo. So it really means image. Dmut in Hebrew means character. So you can say kind of like maybe that's what it would mean. But in the community, it's also known that its main meaning is that also God sees like us, like he saw, like we know that when he created the light, for example, the first thing that he created, we know that he saw the light, that it was good. So only when he created light, the word see can exist. So again, only when he created light, the word see can exist. Why is this important? Because here it says that God created man in his own image. So we can also see, like God can see. And so on and so on. Is it like, I'm like, of course, in the Torah, it also says that only Moses saw God. So we don't know what would be the shape of God. That's not really known in the community. But when it comes to this verse right here, this is what also is mostly known about what it means, as it's in the image of God. And then we have to continue here and say, and the birds, really to live off them also. And then here it again says that God created Adam in his image, in his own image he created him. Zakar naqaba, Zakar, male, naqaba, female. ويبرك وتم إلوم ويوم لما إلوم فيرو ورابو وميلا وطارس. ويبرك إلوم, يبرك here means bless, that he blessed them. And really, what would be interesting for everyone to know is the word bless, ويبرك, can also be in Hebrew, can also mean in Hebrew, it can have also the same origin of the word ويبرك. ويبرك, it appears when the servant of Abraham went to find a bride for his master Abraham, son. So when he reached that Rivka's family, it is said that he made the camels sit. So kind of like Yibrak itagaman. So the word Yibrak kind of also means, in a way, like sitting, but not really just sitting. It's almost sitting out of respect in a way. Just a quick fact here. Curious to know what ChatGPT thinks about this also. Origin of the word bless, but in Hebrew. So it says here, the origin of the word bless in Hebrew is rooted in the word barak. Semitic words appears in various related languages. It carries the sense of to bless, but it can mean to kneel. Yes, this is the word. As kneeling often a part of ancient blessing ceremonies. The concept of blessing in the Hebrew tradition is deeply connected to the idea of imparting divine favor, offering thanks. So yeah, that's actually what I had in mind. Cool. Oh, whoops. I have to go through this and then here. Alright. Of course, we continue here and we say Feru Rebu, which means that, God also wants us to, if he created something that he saw good and he loves his creation, then he wants them to continue living, which means that he advised us to grow and to prosper, is what it really means. Feru Urebu Umela Uetar Zugeba Shua Uredu Evdeket Ayam Ubuf Eshamim. Keba Shua means how can I find the best word for this in English? Keba Shua, not to occupy, can mean that. Not to conquer, although it can also mean that. Let me know what you guys think. Keba Shua, if you know what that words. Here it says also so God gave us all the plants that there is and all the animals that there is that are edible of course, for us to eat. And then of course in the end it says and then God saw everything that he created, and behold, it was very good. So here, basically the end of the sixth day, and here we see one difference between the Samaritan Torah and the Jewish Torah, which is the next page actually here. So ويكلوا الشام موارس وكل صابع إما ويكلا إلوم here, that God finished his work on the 6th day, and then he rested on the 7th day. While in the Jewish Torah it says that God finished his work on the 7th day and rested on the 7th day as well. So that's one difference between the Samaritan one and the Jewish Torah. Okay, next. Alright, so here it says إلا تولدت الشام موارس ببارا إما, and this is how this is the creation. Tuldat can mean creation, or it can be I'm not sure, like it's not the exact word. Tuldat it's not exactly means creation. It can also mean generations. Toldot kind of means the generations of I have this, it's really right on the tip of my mouth. Tuldot, almost like genealogy in some way, but it's not really about humans, but it's about the creation of this sky and earth. Anyways, أبيوم عشرة شيما إلوهم شام موارس وكل شيء الشالي تيرم يسمى يي بارس. So here it also says that the plants didn't really grow as much, right? That there was no Adam to serve earth. So here we know one of the main things why God created us, and that is also to take care of his creation. We know that also when Adam was kicked out of heavens. In a sense, heavens is, in the Torah, Samaritans do not think of heaven as a place outside earth or whatever. It's really on earth. But that when we were kicked out of this heavenly place, Gan Eden, it's kind of like brought back the obligation to take care of the place ourselves. Before it was taken care of, but now we sinned and we have to take care of that. So we'll get to that in a bit. But it's interesting to remember that we are here to take care of the creation, and wars is not really doing that if you think about it in some ways. Rule over, care for earth. Yeah, Eric, that's a good one. Thank you. So we begin to see here, so this is where the creation of heaven, and miqadim would mean also a certain direction. We know in Hebrew Tzafon, Darom, Mizrach, but miqadim, well, a lot of our ancestors believe this was on Mount Gerizim. But a lot of people who really believe in the Samaritan Torah but do not really agree with this location to be on Mount Gerizim, would say that it was near Iran or something. Maybe it's not really important to know where it is exactly if we were kicked out of it, I guess. But it's interesting to see all the different interpretation of where Gan Eden is. But it's worth knowing that in the Samaritan religion, there is no mentioning of us going back to heaven. It's almost like we create the heaven here, and we create it by, just complete perfect integration with the creation, and that happens when you basically have control and sense of yourself. This is where the story of Adam and Eve comes, right? Because here it says, I'm gonna not go down here, let's just continue, but the story of Adam and Eve kind of clicks with us the sins, right? And the snake is really also a sign of temptation, if you think about it, because we always have this thing in our minds that we feel like we don't have control over, right? And the story of the snake, the Nash, it really is another way to talk about the actual story and the little details. People really need to remember there's also a meaning to be taken from here, and that is that what happens here, and let's read together. First of all, I don't want to skip this part, of course. ويا عمر شيء ما إلوم لا تبعيط آدم البدو. That Adam, here at this point, Adam was alone. إيش له عازر كان يقدو. عازر in Hebrew, عزير means to help. And when he continues here, ويصر شيما إلوم أود من آدم. What's interesting here is the word yasar and not bara. Yasar, yatsar, produced. In Hebrew we say motsar, which means product. Could it be because he used, a material already? Because here it says he created again from earth. It كالعية الشادي وتكالأوف الشامم. So when he brought all those creation to Adam, and he also made Adam name those creations, يقرأ آدم شيمة الكلابيم, and he named all of those birds and animals, and then there was no وَلَادَمْ لَا مَاسَ عَذَرْ كَانْ يَقْدُو, and then Adam didn't see any عذر, help in a way, كَانْ يَقْدُو, like him. So here it says وَيَبَّلْ شَيْمَا إِلُوَمْ تَرْدِيمَ عَلْ آدَمْ وَيِشَنْ. Some people would call this the first anesthesia ever, right? Like that God basically brought tardima. I'm not sure how to interpret it in English, but it really kind of means lahiradem, which means to sleep. So he almost, like he put Adam into sleep to take this part from his body, and then he gave it, he put it to create the woman. So you have Eve, right? Adam and Eve. So Eve. يا عمر آدم زوت أبا معصمي أصامي وباشا من باشاري الزوتي قاري إشا كي ميشا ليخيا زوت. So Isha, he called this being next to him Isha, and here we see why the Torah calls him like that, and that is meaning that he was, or she was taken from her husband. Or not really taken, but like a part was taken from her husband. So Ish means man, husband. So this is Isha, which means that she was taken from a part of her husband. Cool. Okay, and here it says هل كان يعظب إيش إطابي وتأمه أضابق بشتو. This is why man leaves his father and mother and stays with his wife. ويمشيني مع البشرات, for that they from both of them become one, or basically in other words have a baby. ويمشيني مع رمم آدم وشتو ولا يتبشاشو. And this is one of the most important verses, I believe, in creation, that both of Adam and Eve were without clothing, but they did not know it. Right? They were naked. They did not know that they were naked, and they were not shy. Yitbashashu means that they were not shy. And this comes because the Torah kind of makes us understand here that they were shy because they did not have awareness, right, of themselves. Why do we know that? It's because only when they ate from the tree of knowledge that they had this kind of awareness, and suddenly they can know about themselves and their state, and they became self-aware. And this self-awareness, a lot of people talk about being too self-aware, and that can be annoying, right? Or like, I don't know, it can be in many ways destructive. But immediately they kind of had to find a solution and hide this what they're shy of, right? Which was their bodies exposed. But again, there was two trees, the tree of knowledge and the tree of life and death. Wait, did they eat from the Did they eat from the for a second I forgot that they ate from the tree of knowledge is what I know, because from the tree of knowledge, because God says that he doesn't want humans to come near those trees again, because if they ate from the tree of life that they would become immortal. So that's also mentioned here. But again, this was also a good way to understand that we have temptations. The snake, the Torah talks about the snake as a being that talks to the wife of Adam, Eve, and tempts her, tells her, don't worry about it, this is a really good looking fruit, and God won't do anything about it, don't worry about it. So she did, and then she went to share it with her husband, because she saw that it was good for what it did. And there's huge lessons to be learned here, so I like it. They ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Yes, indeed. So, it says also the good of, it's adat tob ura, the knowledge of good and evil. So the good and evil part is also mentioned in the Deuteronomy. It says, see that I set before you life and death. With erra, and sorry, the good and the bad, and then he says the death and life, and then we have to choose. And then this whole story of the snake and the eating from the tree of knowledge and not eating from the tree of knowledge is also a huge reminder of the consequences that we have on ourselves, and the free will that we have as well. So the Torah also kind of in a way tells us, remember, you have the ability to choose, but not every choice is wise. So this is one big lesson we know from the Torah. So by the way, we in the Samaritan community will start reading again. This is the first parasha, we call it, of the year, which we start here. And for example, in my family, my grandfather starts it. There's a special melody. He reads the verse here in vertical, and then he starts the melody. Then next to him is the next person. We know every week that they sit next to my grandfather. In this case, it would be my little cousin Dan, his father after, and then my father, and then so on. And everyone they can prepare their verse a day before or something. I don't prepare my verses a day before anymore. I know the melodies pretty well on the spot, but it's a risk you can take also. You don't want to take a risk. You always want to be prepared. You don't want your family to, you don't want to be embarrassed, because the melodies are known in all the community. And some people ask me, what is the difference between so we have two kinds of dots. Do they appear in this version of the Torah? So there's two dots here, notice. But usually we also have other two dots that are horizontal, two dots like there. But it's weird that this version of the Torah doesn't have them, do they? It's really odd. But if you do happen to see those two dots again, so this, we have one dot between each word, so that's normal. Every word is separated by the next word with a dot. But if you see two dots, that means that if they're horizontal, like 1, 2, then it means that the next word after it, or the next sentence, is very related to the word before it. While two dots that are vertical, that it's almost like a stop. almost like a full stop. But the full stop here is those three right here. 3 with a dash. That's a full stop. This sign usually is an end of, I don't know if I can call it verses, paragraph or something. Out of curiosity, Abu, do you believe there was 2 creations of humans? Because when Cain talked to God, he said to God, "Don't send me out into the wilderness. I be a wanderer and they will attack me." I never heard about that one, to be 2 creations, Aaron, but but interesting. Cain said to God, "Don't send me into the wilderness, and I will be wanderer." I do know that verse, but I'm not sure about it being 2 creations, though. Good question to ask my uncle for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna leave a few more minutes to try and talk a few things about Genesis and my my favorite stories and lessons we can learn. I think one of the most important ones is Joseph for me, the story of Joseph. And the story of Joseph, it really also shows the incredible, not only faith that Joseph had and intelligence, but also really the story of him knowing, the story of how the Torah really describes that he went through really hell. But in the end, that had to happen for him to become the king. He had to go through jail, then meet one of the people there to be able to speak to Pharaoh himself. Because, you wouldn't meet Pharaoh for no reason at those times. You need a reason to meet Pharaoh. But in order for Joseph to meet Pharaoh, he had to go to jail and suffer and do all those things so that he meets Pharaoh, and then he interprets the dream, and then he becomes the king of Egypt. So that's one really important story. One little detail I like. And second, also, I have many, but my second favorite maybe would be Yaakov Abinu, when he worked hard day and night to get those, first of all, to marry, of course, the 2 wives he had, and then, of course, to get the even more, 7 years he served to be able to be, to have those sheep and what Laban had. So, Abu, do Samaritans believe in the resurrection of the dead, or a type of immortality or healing of the earth, like Garden or the Garden of Eden? So it's a good question here, Abraham. It's not really easy to talk that the dead really resurrects, because God, the Torah just says that when someone dies, he goes back to God, but there's also, our poems do describe there is something about resurrection. It's just that I don't know about it, if it describes the resurrection to be the physical resurrection, right? So I can't tell you yes for sure. Healing of the earth, like Garden of Eden, again sounds interesting, because the world is evolving, right? And we have less wars going on around the world, despite the wars happening today. But believe it or not, we're in an era where much less wars are happening, and than the history of humanity happened. We always used to be very vicious against each other, and today it's really we realize that wars are very costly, I guess. So we have more peace in many ways. I know it's ironic to say that in the situation happening today, but yeah. Okay, so I opened ChatGPT also to let it pick a random verse from the Torah, from Genesis, and then talk about it. Choose a random verse from the book of Genesis and translate to Hebrew, just so that we can also know. Um, very typical to choose the first verse. Barashet bara eluim it eshamim with oris. One thing I can say about here is what would you interpret the origins of the word shamim? My uncle once said shamim can be interpreted as sham maim or sham yam, which means there's water, because like the water goes down from there sometimes. So I'm interested to know what is the root. See what is ChatGPT thinks about this one. Known to be the root of the word. Alright, so it says here it's not straightforward as some other Hebrew words. Hebrew root typically consists of 3 consonants. The word shamayim appears to be a dual form of an otherwise non-existent singular word shama, shamai, which doesn't appear in biblical Hebrew. One theory suggests that the word shamayim is derived from the root shama, there, referring to a place being high, lofty. Shama, okay, yeah, because in Hebrew we do say shama means there. So the word being high, okay, wow. Another one means yam, the end of shamayim, suggests a plural of the word which is common for objects that naturally occur in pairs, possibly denoting to the heavens above as a vast expanse. Cool. One more verse. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. So this was said to Abraham. Abraham was, first of all, he started with nothing, then he got married to Sarah, and eventually his, became in a sense, Abraham means the father of many nations. So this is like the promise of Abraham. We talk about also the Abrahamic religions and everything. So this was kind of like a prophecy fulfilled in a sense, because like all those people that did come from him, wagdil hashemak, that I will make your name bigger. I guess metaphorical for not only reputation but the word Abraham, right? Like the huge family around the world, family or people or nations, the father of many nations. Ki ab amun guwem is what the Torah said, because you will be a father to many nations. Alright, I like that. Next verse. Also, Abud, I'll probably ask you what you think about the two creations of human theory in another stream, because you said you wouldn't ask. Yeah, I would. Sure, Aaron. One of the most beautiful ones. Alright, so here it says, and I will bless them that bless the ones who bless you, curse the one who cursed you, and all the families of the earth. This was also, of course, said to Abraham, and he says, so, we can see here that God really loved Abraham. So, yes, of course, Abraham, his name was changed from Abram to Abraham. Nice verse. And by the way, here, before I go to the next one, here it says, and these shall families of the earth be blessed. Which also can, if you don't know this kind of English, it also means that all the families are blessed because of you. This can mean that people would be blessed from his wisdom, or blessed from his what he's bringing to the world, because Abraham also brought Shema to the world, brought Hashem, brought the idea of God to the world. So this can also mean this. So Abram went as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Aram. So Here it's also interesting because it talks about Abraham and his brother. And Lot, so his brother Lot. And this is important because, we see that Abram really loves his brother Lot, but eventually, because he loves him, also he told him, we don't want that there is any fight between us, that you go this way and I go this way. Meaning that he goes to the north, and Lot went to the south. And because he went to the south, the Dead Sea, right? The whole story of Sodom and Gomorrah happened. But remember that Abraham didn't forget his brother there, and he asked God many times not to destroy that city because there are good people there. He knew that also Lot was there. So that's important to remember. And by the way, when I use ChatGPT, I thought some people, I heard some people say that Aboud uses ChatGPT. He asks ChatGPT about Samaritans, and doesn't he think that it's not accurate sometimes? Well, of course I know it can make mistakes. It says here, ChatGPT can make mistakes. But again, there are some things that I use it for just to get the info, specific verse right out immediately. And believe it or not, it is actually accurate in many of the times. So, all right, what's the next one? And Abram took Sarah his wife and Lot his brother's son. And all their possessions they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go unto the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. So here, when they came to the land of Canaan the first time, continue the... Oh, my bad. Continue the verse. Certainly, the narrative continues with Genesis 12:6 in English. This is what I wanted to bring out. So, and Abraham passed through the land unto the place of Shechem. So here we see that the first time Abraham wants to enter the Holy Land. And then, where did he come for the first time? Shechem, which is right here, right on Mount Gerizim. So this is also one thing that Samaritans believe is one of the reasons why Mount Gerizim was not one of the reasons, but we just can already see the importance of Shechem. That he came to the place of Shechem. Shechem was very, and still is, an important place, but specifically in the ancient times, because it had waters. It's known that Mount Gerizim has 12, or used to have 12 water fountains. We still have some running today. Delicious waters, like known to be, safe to drink. But of course, any source of water, vegetation, was a good place to stay at, and Abraham went straight to there, as you can see here. So in ancient Hebrew we say Uyab bar Abram baris hat maqam eshkem ad alon mura what kanani as baris. And here it says that the Canaanites were there. So some people I've seen on the internet, and also one DNA result of Samaritans, a few of them, show that Samaritans have Canaanite DNA. We're talking about 95%, 97% Canaanite DNA. And after looking around and asking some experts, some told me there is no Samaritan category perhaps in that website that they have used, so that's why they think it's Canaanite. Another one told me that this is perhaps because Samaritans used to live with the Canaanites in that time, that this is why the result shows. And other people would say Canaanites have actually been influenced by Hebrew. Their language is influenced by Hebrew. Super interesting to know about that. If you read Torah, we have all the deeper knowing, which is good, right? And lovely. Sometimes we need tools to help along the way. For sure. Gematria would indicate that Abraham, and Sarah, there was an exchange of 5, but the balance of the equation remained. I'm not sure what is believed to be 5, Eric, here, but interesting to know. Cool. Alright, another random verse, please. So here we have Genesis 28:15. Behold, I am with thee, and I will keep thee in the place whither thou goest. Goest. I mean, it means goes, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Which is the verse in Hebrew we say, Inna anaki immak. Here I am with you. وشامرتك أفكل إيش أرتيلك وشبتك الأعظام وأزيوت كي لا عزبت هاد إيشر أم عشيتي إيشر دبرتي لك. It's a beautiful verse. Okay, so the verse here assures Jacob. So here Jacob has a verse, and he has a mission, and and then God kind of like, when you are on a mission, you need someone to kind of encourage you, right, and give you the encouragement to go on this mission, whether it's your master or your if you're going to war, it's your commander or whatever. You need that motivation, and here God gives motivation to Jacob, which made Jacob in the end have such a strong faith to go and suffer all that happened to him, so that he can achieve what he in the end have done. And what's interesting about Jacob's story here is that Jacob also makes a covenant with God. He asks God that he vows himself that if God helps him through this journey, that he will declare this place as the house of God, and that he basically creates an altar and he sacrificed the sheep there. And what's interesting is that he does have all that, and in the end he comes back to this place and he thanks God. Actually, even God reminds him to build this altar. Okay, next verse. Alright, here in English here, and Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord in this place, and I know. One of the most beautiful verses for me here in the Torah is that when Jacob really wakes up from his dream, and he says, which means, as you can read here, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. What is this place which was so important and so magnificent that Jacob had to say that there is God here? In the Samaritan community, this place is believed to be Mount Gerizim. But why? What was this place? What did he see? Of course, he also says, this must be the gates of heaven and the house of God. And then he says, and he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? So is this the correct translation? Dreadful? This is none other but the house of God. Well, this is correct one, but I don't think that this is the correct translation, the word dreadful here. Let's see. So this is what we should say. So it says here that Nora, we do know that when someone says, wow, Nora means, bad, right? But here it does, fix itself now and says that it can also be conveying the sense of awe-inspiring, awesome. So this is the correct translation, not dreadful, but awesome. So this talks about like how awesome is this place when Jacob woke up from his dream. So I really love this place. So these are two words for Mount Gerizim: the gates of heaven and the house of God. And this is where they come from, the story here. All right, a few more verses before we close this here. Another verse. All right, the next one is ويشكم يعقوب بكر ويقع Okay, so this is when he basically this is when he really kind of wakes up from a dream, and then he takes his he gets ready to go and meet Laban, right? Not Laban. Is it Laban? It is Laban. Still on the pillow during the night. So just to remember this encounter, he takes this pillow, which he slipped, of course not a pillow, which is the stone, and then he sets it, and he pours oil on it. And this is interesting to know that he used oil on it, because in the temple, in the Torah, we also see that the Torah describes using the oil, either to put the bread in it or to cover the head of the priest in it. So the oil is also a kind of a sense of, it gives a sense of ceremony and a covenant, right? So the pouring of the oil upon it is a way of anointing that. All right, so that's what it is, anointing the pillar, further making the sanctity of the location. So that's also what is said here. Do Samaritans accept male converts, and how does the process look like? I heard about many Samaritans group in Brazil, and they are not counted. They're wonder. I did answer this question a few times here, but in short, I can tell you the Samaritans community here, it's not easy to get into the community and live with the community, because the community doesn't really have specific convert procedures. However, yes, we know there are Samaritans around the world who originally were not Samaritans, but they converted, they found out about the religion, and I know a good number of them. They know quite a lot about the Samaritan community, and we accept them. It's just that if they come here to live with us, we're not ready maybe yet to know who to accept and who not, right? We're a small community. We're very careful about, especially when you're very small, you don't know if we bring one or two people. It's just not simple. But then again, yes, I heard there's maybe 10,000 people who follow the Samaritan community in Brazil alone, so haven't met a lot of them. Maybe I know a few, but I'm not sure how exactly that started. Some people say it has to do with the rise of the internet and the rise of the easier communication. They found out about us. Would it be possible to revive the Samaritan Hebrew language so that the Samaritan community would start speaking it in ancient Hebrew, just like the Jews and Elazar ben Jehuda did? Yeah, Fingar, I think it would be awesome indeed, but we're very few. We're only 850, so maybe in a few hundred years or something. But I that would be so cool to write in ancient Hebrew and type and make posts in ancient Hebrew here. We already have the fund for ancient Hebrew. It's just that it's not used, by enough people anyway. So, all right, next verse. Oh, it's just going. I meant random. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Menashe, for God, he said, had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. So this is when Joseph brought his first son. Oh wait, actually his first son was Ephraim, right? Second son, Menashe. Wait, it says here, okay, sorry. But I thought it was always said Ephraim and Menashe. So Menashe is the firstborn, alright. Now, if you don't know the origin of the word, for example, what I like about the Torah is that there's always, explanations of what is the origin of each word. Sometimes, like of names, for example. Why was this person named like that? That's really something that I like. And one of my favorite interpretations is the word Yaakov, which really is when Yaakov wanted to be buried, when he was about to be born. He was twins, right? He was with his twin Ishab, and then when he was coming out of his mother's womb, he was holding his twins Ekib, which kind of means the heel, right? Is that the word in English? The heel. So it kind of like symbolically that he wanted to be the firstborn, and then we know the story of when the Torah continues, and he really wanted to be the firstborn, and he got it in the end by convincing his mother Ishu to sell his firstborn rights, if you want to call it. But let's see what ChatGPT thinks about it. What is the... Again, I know I'm being careful with ChatGPT here to use, because, you know, I try to read as much as possible. This is a huge mistake of translation when it translated the word dreadful here. So all right. I wanted to ask here of the word Jacob. It has to mention, this is the only known interpretation of it. Interesting and layered origin related to biblical story of Jacob himself. Exactly. Ekev. The word Ekev, heel. Yes, that's the word. I knew it. Okay. So it says here, and after that came his brother out. After that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Ishu's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And here it says the act of holding the heel was symbolic of Jacob's later life, as the term heel is linked to the idea of following closely or even supplanting someone, which Jacob did when he obtained both Ishu's birthright and his father's Isaac blessing. Yeah, like exactly mentioned. Of course, it's the most known story, I guess, about it. How about, like, I know, so Adam, Noah, Joseph. Cool things. Okay, I want to choose also a few words here before I go. Alright, here it says also, this I don't think we read this. And then God, basically called out Adam and told him, where are you? Ika. So Adam answered back and said, your voice I heard in the in the Gan Eden, in the paradise, and I was scared because I am naked, and I hid. So here's God says, and who told you that you are without clothing, that you eaten from the tree that I told you do not eat from? Here it says, آمن آئيس إشر صابيتك البلتي آكل من منه آكلته. And continues, it says, يا أمر آدم آئشة إشر ناططة إمادي. The woman that you have given me, right? So, here's like, you see that Adam's response here is straight to kind of trying to put the blame on the Lord himself by telling him, the woman that you given to me, and then he switches the blame again to her. She was the one who convinced me to eat from this tree. And then you see here, and then it continues that when the woman said, but the serpent told me. And this is a very symbolic thing to understand, that you cannot really just use that as a term of a wisdom. You cannot say that I was told by this person, therefore I thought it was okay. So kind of like, you need a reliable source of information. Is that like too technical to say that? But what I mean is that obviously there were some people who got tempted into doing something here. So again, a sign of symbolically for being aware of our temptations, whether it's eating that food or taking that offer that shouldn't have been agreed upon or something like that. All right, Fingar, you're saying do not say we are only 850. Remember that Abraham was only one and he became millions. Awesome stream, thank you. Thank you, Fingar. Yeah, no, I am actually confident. Like, we're doing good. I'm just saying, I don't know how practical it is to have ancient Hebrew be used, in more than the Torah for now, in business and everything. Do you translate Aiden mean paradise? You can translate it as paradise. You can translate it as really like just gan means garden, so it's also a garden. But a lot of Samaritans would tell you that Gan Eden is not some place that we will come back to, but more like that we have to build again here, so. Trying to see if I wanted to cover some more things. Okay, this was a lot of fun and a lot of it was really informative also for me, to be honest. I didn't prepare this stream or anything, but it gave me a lot of ideas for a video that I want to make, and also a lot of lists of questions for my grandfather and my uncle, especially when we sit on Shabbat while we're reading the parasha. The reading of this whole parasha, it takes sometimes up to an hour, because you don't read this fast. Like this would be read as in the melody, this is the melody, but that was even like faster than what it's normally sung. So to read all this would take up to like maybe 5 minutes, probably less, but still, this allows the family to sit, have questions if they have to, even while other people is reading. It's just a beautiful way to learn Torah together with the family and get challenged also. Like, for example, my grandfather's always challenges me of, hey, you know what that word means? And usually I know the word, but when I don't, it's the most exciting time. It's like, oh wow, I don't know this word. You want to add it to the collection of words. And so far, I don't, Barashet, this part is usually well known in the Torah. It's the first part, is people will talk about it. So you're very welcome, Eric. Thank you for watching. All right. So again, hope to see you in the next live for this. Again, I'll be trying to do it more often, because it's an awesome way to connect with you guys, and also an awesome way to learn about Torah, because we in the Samaritan community, you grow up reading Torah every week, at least every week of your life, and it becomes a huge part of your life, and you want to learn how to interpret it. You want to learn how to read it. You want to learn how to pass it down. So this is one small one that I have right now here, and usually it has like who Let's see the camera here. So usually it has like in the first page who kind of like gifted this. So here it says Asher Abid Ela. So this is like was gifted for my father, who gifted it to me by the families of Yehusha. 2014. Very thankful for this one. And then, what is this? I see kind of like a hidden code here. I want to see what it means. Do you see those letters going vertical? Usually if they're vertical that way, it probably means some kind of a code or something. So I see where this is going. Okay, so this is the song of Azinu, the song of Moses at the end of the Torah. Azinu, hear me. And here it says, let's see, Risha Tal Wow, this is not easy to interpret. Okay. Risha. Okay. Risha Tal Rasis. Miss. Okay. So these words are actually kind of like, written vertically, and they mean a certain poem that we always read, small little poem that we always read when we read that poem, which is the Azinu. So it's kind of a poem within a poem. Cool. Of course, remember that even though those words are written vertical here, but they are written vertical so that they can also be in line with the horizontal words next to them. So it's not very easy to create this. And by the way, I tried to see if ChatGPT can read the ancient Hebrew. It cannot.